Good afternoon. We're gathered on Treaty 6 territory, and I acknowledge the Métis people of Alberta who share a deep connection to this land. I'm Laurie Sigurdson, the Alberta NDP Seniors and Housing, Mental Health and Addictions Critic and MLA for Edmonton Riverview. I'm joined today by my colleague Janice Irwin, our critic for women and LGBTQ2S+ issues, and also David Shepherd, our critic for health. Kevin Cooper, who has worked for over a decade in housing policy, both municipally with Homeward Trust and provincially in the public service. He is the founder of the consulting company Leading Housing. And Raymond Swanwick, the past president of the Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association. And for 17 years, Raymond was the chief executive officer for the Greater Edmonton Foundation, the largest provider of seniors, subsidized, independent, and supportive living in Alberta. Every Albertan deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. Housing is good for more than just individuals. It benefits the whole community. It saves in healthcare costs and decreases crime. The situation we face currently. The UCP's lack of investment in affordable housing has increased homelessness and social disorder and has cost taxpayers more than they have saved. That's why Janice and I are so proud to be here to present our proposal to solve the affordable housing crisis in our province. Every Albertan deserves a home. In our plan, we commit to seeing another 40,000 Albertans get access to housing within 5 years. We commit to building more than 8,500 affordable homes and increasing rental assistance to support 11,000 more households. This will require $1.5 billion in provincial capital funding and can leverage about $3 billion total in capital funding from all levels of government and housing providers. Our policy paper goes further into detail about this plan and includes 11 policy proposals to provide more affordable housing for Albertans. I am very hopeful that we will have the opportunity to form government in May and build affordable housing and reduce poverty. The Alberta NDP has always been committed to the well-being of all Albertans and building affordable housing. We made an historic $1.2 billion capital investment while in government. There were nearly 66,000 provincially supported affordable homes in 2018-19 under the Alberta NDP. In 21-22, under the UCP, only 58,000 housing units were supported. That's 8,000 fewer units, while waiting lists for affordable housing have increased to more than 25,000 people. It's clear that the UCP have taken affordable housing in the wrong direction and are more interested in selling it than building it. Despite these challenges, I'm inspired by the work of Alberta housing providers. I know they would be able to do so much more with a government that is fully invested in seeing the social housing sector thrive. I will now turn it over to Janice.
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you for your work on this file. No Albertan should be forced to sleep on the street or in an unsafe situation. I see firsthand every day in my riding of Edmonton Highlands Norwood the impacts of a lack of housing on the people who I represent, and I know that we need to do a whole lot better. Access to housing is a human right, and the Alberta NDP is committed to ensuring that every Albertan has a safe and affordable place to call home. With that in mind, 3 key principles guide our 11 policy proposals. They are accessibility, so that affordable housing is within reach for all Albertans; inclusive consultation, meaning we will work with people with lived experience, housing providers, the private sector, policy experts, researchers, and all orders of government; transparent evaluation and monitoring to ensure that the plan is a success. And further to what Laurie shared about building more housing and increasing rental assistance, our plan includes many other proposals that will make a transformational difference across different types of housing. We will invest $120 million into the Indigenous Housing Capital Program to support Indigenous-led projects and solutions to affordable housing. We will provide more funding for wraparound services in affordable housing, which is critical to alleviating extreme poverty by ensuring that people have access to the mental health, the health, the cultural supports that they need to maintain social housing. Wraparound supports are also important for housing for people with disabilities and for seniors as well. The specific supports necessary will vary and should be designed through working with local providers and local communities. We will also support renters by increasing rental assistance, by creating a rent bank, which will provide funds to help Albertans avoid eviction when they face a crisis, such as the loss of a job or a family emergency. These are meaningful actions that will make a real, tangible difference in the lives of Albertans. And we know that strong social policy is good economic policy, good health policy too. And ensuring that people have access to homes will save costs across public services. Affordable housing means that people will be less reliant on shelters, it will reduce the demands on the criminal justice system and the healthcare system. And with that, I would now like to turn it over to Kevin Cooper.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Janice. I'm the principal of Lead in Housing Consulting, where I primarily support housing providers across Alberta build affordable housing, as well as support municipalities identify tools and resources locally to deliver more homes. Before that, I worked for a decade in housing policy, both municipally with Homer Trust here in Edmonton and provincially in the public service, where my tenure spanned 2 provincial governments. Every day I work with nonprofit housing providers who are eager to get to work and deliver community-led and owned housing solutions. And while we make strides and get some housing built using every available tool in our tool belt, more could be done. To me, building affordable housing is so important to cultivating strong communities by reducing poverty and housing instability. I believe all levels of government have a role to play in realizing that, particularly the provincial government. So I believe the plan presented today to build 8,500 homes over 5 years is ambitious yet achievable in partnership with community partners and in the nonprofit housing sector and local governments in Alberta. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I would now like to invite Raymond to the mic.
Thank you, Laurie. So housing is a fundamental human right and a social determinant of health. I like the NDP paper for 3 main reasons. First is a comprehensive plan that considers the needs of many Albertans and provides a range of housing options and choices. Second, a really big one, is it provides wraparound services in affordable housing, including for permanent supportive housing and tenant support staff. This will help to reduce our homelessness and allow other people to be successful in affordable housing. The City of Edmonton recently opened 210 permanent supportive housing buildings and desperately needs the wraparound services. And third, there's a commitment of significant dollars to fund the various initiatives and make a real difference to the lives of Albertans. This is a real difference between the current plan the government has. To solve the current housing crisis, we need a comprehensive and funded housing plan. The Alberta's NDP's Every Albertan Deserves a Home is an investment in affordable housing that supports all Albertans and will make Alberta stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. I would also like to share a couple of comments from affordable housing advocates who were not able to attend today. From Omar Yacoub, he's the servant of servants, which is similar to the role of an executive director at Islamic Family. And I quote, "The Alberta economy is being throttled by underinvestment in affordable housing. We need a seismic shift to how we approach housing that includes innovative designs to reflect changing needs, diversifying housing providers to better represent the makeup of the province, and unlocking new and better ways to finance and sustain projects," end of quote. Second advocate, Nick Falvo, he's a public policy researcher and expert in affordable housing, said, and I quote, "Alberta needs bold action on both nonprofit housing supply and housing affordability generally. I'm happy to see the NDP has a plan to move the needle on both," end of quote. We're now happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Just a reminder, if you're on Zoom, it's the raise hand function. If you're on the phone, it's *9. Please state your name and outlet and who you'd like to direct your question to. We'll start in the room.
Catherine Grakowski, Alberta Today. So affordable housing means a lot of different things. For some, it's affordable in the market. For some, it's for those on fixed income. For some, it's just getting into a house. Can you break down this 8,500? Like, how much is it about market versus the wraparound? Like, what are the details there?
Yes, and we could, follow up with more details after, but I will answer now. Certainly, we're talking about below market housing when we're talking about the 8,500 units, and some of those are deeper subsidies, or rent geared to income. So some will be 10% below, but some will be a deeper subsidy. And we do have definitions in our policy paper regarding that, just to clarify that all. But certainly, when we're talking about those numbers, that big investment, our bold investment of $1.6 billion, we are talking about below market housing.
Okay, and 40,000 in 5 years. Do you have any sense of what the actual need is, like the total need?
I see what you mean. Well, what I'll say is that Alberta has less than the provincial average. We have about 4.9% affordable housing in our province. Or no, I mean 2.9%, and it's about 4.3 is the average of other provinces. So we're way below, and this will, of course, make a significant difference to invest in housing in our province. But yeah, there's a significant need. There's no question.
Hi, my name's Sarah Comadina. I'm with Global News. I was just talking to the mayor earlier today, and he mentioned that part of this is also looking at addressing root causes. So having the units are important, but what is in this plan to also address the needs of people where they're at, and encouraging them to maybe look at moving from off the streets and into a home?
Absolutely. That's very significant. And when we talk about permanent supportive housing, it's not just the bricks and mortar of a unit. It is those wraparound services that support people to stay well housed, because they may have mental health issues that make it difficult for them to be able to maintain a home. They may have addiction issues. So those wraparound supports help people to stay well housed. Just giving them a unit isn't going to do it. And so that's why there is funding in this proposal for those kind of investments.
And as mentioned, this is an ambitious plan. So how likely is it to achieve within that timeline?
Oh, we're completely committed to making this happen. And when we were government, we had a bold investment also, and we fulfilled on that. So I'm confident our government certainly has the motivation, and obviously, we will fulfill on our commitment to invest that $1.6 billion in capital funding and make sure that Albertans have the housing they need.
Okay, we'll go to the line now. Caller, your line is open.
Hi, it's Lisa Johnson calling from the to ask some of the housing advocates who are there today whether they think that this plan will effectively end homelessness. I'm reaching back to a 2021 announcement that Leader Rachel Notley made, saying that ending homelessness would be a priority for the NDP if elected in 2023. So I'm wondering how far you think this will go.
Raymond, he said housing advocate.
Okay. I think I'll answer that. It's Raymond here. With regards to the investment in wraparound services, I think that'll be the key to helping end the homelessness. It'll be this plan, as well as the working with the municipalities and the federal governments. So this plan is committed to the $1.6 billion, but that's also trying to take that money and utilize the investments from the federal government and the cities of Edmonton, cities of Calgary, and they've also made a huge commitment to homelessness. So I think this will go a long way, and in 5 years' time, you see a significant reduction in homelessness in both cities.
Do you have a follow-up, Lisa?
Thanks for that. I'm wondering too, when Rachel mentioned this at the Alberta Municipalities conference not too long ago, President Kathy Herron said she obviously didn't hear more details about the plan, that the details weren't released that day, but she did express concern that the money would be focused in the two major cities in Edmonton and Calgary. So I'm wondering where geographically will these new the 8,500 new homes around the province? Do you have that laid out?
Well, certainly, in our province, it's Lori again, we have an extensive network of housing management bodies across the province in both rural and the major centres. And so we already have existing housing providers that we can work very closely with, and certainly our NDP government, if elected, would be committed to working with that structure that we do have. So we haven't more details will be coming regarding the plan, depending on, of course, being elected and that. But there is an extensive structure of housing management bodies that provide in small towns across our province. So we do have a robust system. They've just been underfunded forever, and they're struggling with operating and not having that investment. Certainly in the UCP's mandate, they haven't been investing in affordable housing, and that's an existing structure that we can work with quickly.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller. Please state your name and outlet and who you'd like to direct your question to.
Hi, I'm Jimena Gonzalez with the TAI. I'm happy with Lori or Janice, whoever wants to take this. And my question is pretty straightforward. And is, did you consider introducing rent controls in Alberta for this policy document?
Well, we do, that is a concern in our province, the high cost of rent. And we have made a proposal to create rent banks to protect people from sudden evictions. If they're experiencing some kind of emergency, loss of job, personal issue, then we want to make sure that people have those supports. And we are looking at the legislation and policy regarding renters, and we'll have more to say on that going forward.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up question?
I do. So just to clarify, so having a rent bank, in your opinion, would that be better than rent controls?
Well, it's something that will help people immediately, of course, because if you do lose a job and you're not able to pay your rent, that this will be giving some support so that people won't lose their homes, and that is key. They're different policies, of course, and certainly we're making a commitment in this document to create rent banks, and we'll be looking at further policy and legislation going forward.
Thank you. We'll do another pass for call. Questions in the room? Yes?
Always have more questions. Speaking of regulation and legislation, in some other markets, I'm thinking Vancouver and Toronto, one of the problems is there's a lot of investors buying up the housing stock, and there's people who don't actually live in the houses who own it, and then it drives up the prices. Are you looking at any controls to avoid what we've seen in markets like Vancouver? Yeah,
the example that you're giving is why we do need to review our legislation and our policies to make sure that those kind of things aren't happening in our province where rents are going to be going up so much, because people are looking at investment, not so much about providing housing for people and keeping it affordable in our province. So again, we're going to do more research into that area to see what's best for Alberta, what's a solution for us here, and so we're committed to doing that. But this paper does not outline that policy. We'll be looking at that going forward.
And I guess to follow up on the last question about rent controls, why not have a cap on the amount that rents can be increased each month or every year, or yeah, why a bank as opposed to rent controls?
Well, I think a bank is important because it does, even rent controls, people may not be able to pay for, even if there is a cap, they may lose their income completely. And so it does create a safety net for those kind of people who have an emergency situation. And, we all have those things come up in our lives. So renters need to have that support. So it is kind of a different policy. And certainly we want to make sure we're considering, the renters themselves, but also to people who own the facilities. So we really need to understand this area a bit more specific to Alberta. So that's what we're going to do before we make a policy in that regard.
Are there any other jurisdictions that have rent banks?
I think BC does.
Okay, we'll do,
Yeah.
sorry. We'll do one more pass for questions in the room. And we'll check online here. One more pass, raise hand for, if you're on Zoom, *9 on the phone. Okay, seeing none, that concludes our press conference for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much for watching, and to learn more, check out albertasfuture.ca.